Hello there, welcome to Planet America. Good to be back with you after our mid-year break. I'm John Barron.
And I'm Licciardello, and while we've been away, there have been, well, quite a few situations.
And on this 250th 4th of July, we declared the best is yet to come.
The ceasefire in the war in Iran is dead.
The Supreme Court has ruled on the legality of birthright citizenship.
Well, the justices are saying that states can ban transgender athletes.
Maine Democrat Graham Plattner's scandal-plagued campaign coming to a dramatic end.
That Senator Lindsey Graham has died at the age of 71.
The president slapped a new round of tariffs on America's 60 biggest trading partners.
2 fatal shootings this month involving immigration and customs enforcement officers.
In the state of Michigan, where Abdul El-Sayed has won the Democratic primary for the United States Senate.
President Trump's massive ballroom and appeals court ordering above-ground construction halted.
The U.S. Senate confirmed Todd Blanche's nomination for Attorney General.
David Crowley has secured the Democratic nomination for governor of Wisconsin over Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong.
Caroline Leavitt will be leaving her role as the White House press secretary.
The Republican-led Senate committee voted today to hold Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress.
U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro dropping charges against a former Olympian for allegedly vandalizing the reflecting pool.
She folded like an umbrella.
But now in term number 2, Trump 50 points underwater.
All of that, and now we're just 11 weeks away from America's congressional midterm elections, with a balance of power in both Washington and within the major parties up for grabs.
Our guest this week is one of the most controversial people in America, left-wing commentator Hasan Piker. But first,
history, the state of the economy, the president's unpopularity, and the polls all point to this year's midterm elections being very good for Democrats and pretty bad for Trump's Republicans.
Democrats have a lead on the GOP with less than 4 months to go to the midterm elections. The Emerson College survey of likely voters have Democrats up by 11 percentage points on the generic congressional ballot over Republican.
As well as all 435 House members being on the ballot this year and 1/3 of the US Senate, there are a slew of state and local elections which are taking on national significance. And in recent weeks, we've seen Democrats and Republicans holding primary elections to pick their candidates, including for governor of Wisconsin, where 1 week ago, 37-year-old Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong's campaign looked unstoppable.
Hong 20 points ahead of Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley.
But some Democrats feared that Fran Hong was simply a bad candidate, too far to the left and too likely to say things that got her into hot water, including a since-deleted 2020 social media post where she issued a call to cancel Thanksgiving because she said it celebrates colonialism. Well, that became a major issue, not just because Americans love their turkey and pumpkin pies, but because maybe it suggested to some that she was different, didn't share their values. Maybe race was part of that too. And so, in the final weeks of the campaign, the media kept asking her about Thanksgiving, and she tried to walk it back.
My favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, because I
there
love
you have it.
Thanksgiving. Yep. I don't want to cancel it. I actually love it.
And she probably should have stopped right there. Instead, moments later, she added this.
I'm going to be real. I'm kind of a curmudgeon when it comes to holidays in general.
Of course, getting real can sometimes be the secret to success in politics, but being a every holiday hater is hardly a way to appear relatable. And yet, Fran Hong's agenda gathered a lot of progressive supporters, certainly ticking off everything on Hasan Piker's socialist wish list.
You support repealing Act 10.
Yes.
Universal childcare.
Yes.
Free school meals.
Yes.
Guaranteed pay leave.
Yes.
Abolishing ICE.
Yes.
A 1-year data center moratorium.
Yes.
Breaking up Big Ag.
Yes.
Public grocery stores.
Yes.
Right to repair.
Yes.
Legalizing cannabis.
Yes.
Overturning Citizens United.
Yes.
A workers' bill of rights.
Yes.
A free Palestine.
Yes.
A lot more on Hasan shortly. And with primary day fast approaching, prominent moderate Democrats, including the likes of Wisconsin's current governor, Tony Evers, inserted themselves into the campaign to try and take Francesca Hong down.
She's in a tough place. She has spent her entire campaign dealing with not with the issues, but what's on the Twitter.
That was a bit rich, to blame Hong for the media's obsession with those old Thanksgiving comments. Evers was backing the guy standing next to him there. That's David Crowley. He's the Milwaukee County Administrator who had earlier quit this campaign when he was getting about 7% of the vote. But then he suddenly jumped back into the race when other Democratic rivals dropped out, thinking that Hong was going to win by a mile. It was basically a political Hail Mary, but it worked.
Crowley's victory marks one of the most unlikely political comebacks in recent years. Just 10 days after he ended his campaign, he relaunched it with the backing of outgoing Governor Tony Evers.
It was quite the turnaround, but I do think there was more to Francesca Hong's headaches than her cringy old tweets. In my view, she was just an incompetent campaigner. Take that Thanksgiving tweet that you mentioned. You played her walk back from that before. That was actually her second response. This was her first response.
Do you still believe that Thanksgiving should be canceled?
I'm a chef, and one of the first meals that I made that was for the community when I was 16 was a Thanksgiving meal. You know, I always think my hospitality background in owning a restaurant for 7-8 years, that bringing folks around the table to share conversation and build community is always a good thing. But Thanksgiving is also a time that's incredibly painful for many people in our communities. And so I think I wanted to make sure that people understood that there are multiple views, but views can evolve. And the position that I'm running for right now, and I think my background as a chef, will actually help me become a better governor that's able to bring more people to the table.
What? What did that mean? I played that long because I wanted you to understand just how ineffectively she communicates. She speaks fluent word salad. That is her problem. That response there even got criticised by the left. Like, for instance, the aforementioned Hasan Piker, who tweeted, "Love Fran, but this was an opportunity to turn this back on how Thanksgiving is about to be unaffordable due to Trump's wars." Then after she was bashed about that for a few days, she then came out with that clip you played, John, pretending she was Thanksgiving's greatest supporter. It was totally amateur hour. And don't think her concerns were limited to Thanksgiving. Defunding the police, discomfort about white people, even though she was once married to one. She struggled on a whole range of topics. That's why the big stars on the left refused to endorse her. Elizabeth Warren said she didn't know Hong. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said her focus was on winning back Congress instead. And then this was Bernie Sanders.
I noticed you haven't yet endorsed in the Wisconsin governor's race. What's your thinking there, and might you endorse? Or
I don't think so. I met Francesca a couple of years ago. I was in Wisconsin, and she seems very, very nice. But again, this is a race I just am not that familiar with.
He's just not familiar with it. And that's despite all of those people supporting Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan, who is ideologically very similar to Hong. David Axelrod spelt out the difference, tweeting, "It would be good for Abdul El-Sayed if Francesca Hong loses her bid to become the Democratic nominee in Wisconsin next week. He is a serious person. She is a font of zany liberal faculty lounge exotica. But the Republicans would surely try and link Abdul and Hong as philosophical kin." He's probably right, because no one was campaigning harder for Hong than Republicans were. Hong didn't spend 1 cent on TV advertising, but the Republican Governors Association sure did. They spent nearly $3.6 million on ads that look very much like Democratic ads for Hong.
We are the campaign that will actually go back to our progressive roots.
That's liberal Francesca Hong. Her agenda? Hong opposes President Trump's deportation policies, and she wants to abolish ICE.
Abolishing ICE.
Yes.
It's not a good sign for a candidate when their opponents want to run against them. Hong was so unconvincing, in fact, that even the other progressive in the race, Kelda Roys, refused to drop out, and she ended up attracting over 7% of the vote, which is a pretty big deal when Hong lost by less than 0.5%. She simply was not a good candidate.
Yeah, so it seemed. The last-minute freakout amongst the establishment wing of the Democratic Party in Wisconsin came after that left-wing candidate, Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, won in the Michigan Senate primary the week before over the more moderate congresswoman there, that's Haley Stevens. Now, it's fair enough as well to freak out because this El Sayed guy, Chaz, is really scary.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
And he doesn't just pander to nostalgia for kids' television, he also panders to boot scooters as well. Pretty scary stuff. But viral silliness aside, Dr. Abdul El Sayed's progressive campaign is based on some pretty serious issues like Medicare for all. And in that area, he's seriously qualified as a public health expert, an associate professor of epidemiology at Columbia. He was the director of Michigan's Wayne County Department of Health. He's a 41-year-old. He's not a political novice either. He ran for governor in 2018, coming second to the eventual winner. That's Gretchen Whitmer in the Democratic primary. His parents were immigrants from Egypt. They split up. His dad remarried a Michigander. El Sayed's blended family has even become a part of his campaign in an attempt to demystify his background and maybe deal with his Muslim faith as well, with some quite clever ads like this one.
Where did Abdul El Sayed come from?
Here.
We're his grandparents.
We helped raise him.
He became a doctor.
He always wanted to help people.
He got all those kids glasses.
Eliminated medical debt.
Poof.
He buys us groceries every week. He knows what things cost.
Now he's running around with Bernie Sanders trying to change politics.
We love him, and so will you.
Too much. I'm Abdul El Sayed, and I approve the heck out of this message.
Language.
But sending up attack ads hasn't stopped the real attack ads from coming.
Abdul El Sayed, in his own words.
They've taken to calling me dangerous.
Do police really need to use guns? Do we need as much of a police force?
I'm dangerous.
Under my leadership, our state will not expend a dime enforcing federal immigration policy.
I sure am dangerous. We take them to the mud and choke them out.
Abdul El Sayed, dangerously radical.
I for sure am dangerous.
He's dangerous.
Apparently he is. And President Trump, who certainly wants to make this year's election a referendum on socialism, even communism, rather than a referendum on him, well, he's been even more succinct on the subject.
When I watch Abdul, he's full of shit.
Be that as it may, El Sayed is also opposed to the US sending military aid overseas, including to Israel, which is why the powerful lobby group, the America-Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, spent $32 million to unsuccessfully try to stop him from winning this primary. Nevertheless, El Sayed won that primary just by a narrow margin, although it's likely that a lot more money is going to be spent against him in the run-up to November's general election, Chaz.
Yeah, we should say El Sayed is not actually a socialist like Bernie Sanders. He refers to himself as a capitalist, but he does have some very progressive ideas, like abolishing the immigration agency ICE, like reforming the Supreme Court, as you say, implementing Medicare for all, also imposing a wealth tax on billionaires. You mentioned Israel before, John. He was a big part of the uncommitted protest vote movement against Biden's Gaza policy back in 2024. But his main slogan is money out of politics, money in your pockets, Medicare for all. So, money out of politics, AIPAC spending $30 million to attack him, kind of played into his main message. Now, interestingly, El Sayed has just as much woke baggage as Francesca Hong does, if not more. He's hidden over 100 old YouTube videos, including videos suggesting American football isn't ethical or safe, and videos supporting defunding the police. In fact, El Sayed has his own deleted Thanksgiving tweet, this one saying, "Thanksgiving was built on the systematic annihilation of Indigenous people and that we owe so much more than thanks. Time for reparations." But on top of all that, El Sayed has a father-in-law who is amongst the top leaders of an Islamic organisation that's been identified by the feds as a public-facing group for the Muslim Brotherhood, and who were convicted of funneling $12 million to Hamas at a time when this father-in-law was in the picture. The difference, though, between El Sayed and Francesca Hong is that El Sayed knows what he's doing. Trump put up this fear-mongering tweet suggesting that Trump and Melania represent a different America. from Abdul Sayed and his wife, this is how El Sayed reacted.
The caption was two very different Americas. What was your response when you saw that?
Yeah, he's right. One in which your overlords are two people who don't like each other but joint in the interest of making billions of dollars off of you, or two people who genuinely love each other, enjoyed some pancakes together, want to come together to build the kind of America where they can raise a family and know that that family is going to have the good things. So yes, you've got two different visions of America. Donald Trump's vision is the one you're living in right now. Can you afford your gas? Can you afford your groceries?
You see, that's smooth. That's how you win. But one more thing. Lots of people have noted how far off the polling was in both those primaries we just discussed. Hong did 20 points worse than the polls predicted. El Sayed did 12 points worse. Some thought that might be a warning sign for their progressive politics. But in Minnesota, the polls underestimated the progressive candidate, Penny Flanagan, by about 20 points. We should also say the average error in polling recently of the difference between the two top candidates in a primary has been about 13 points. That's over the whole last decade. So these are pretty normal errors. But why do they happen? It's because primary polls have significantly more undecided voters than general election polls do, which makes everything less certain. Also, when you've got super low response rates, which they do, now they're well below 1%, pollsters have to adjust their data to make it useful. What they do is they try to approximate what the polls would say if their sample reflected the whole country or the whole state in racial mix, in education mix, in income mix, and in partisan mix, because those are good proxies for how someone might vote in an election between a Democrat and a Republican. But in primaries, those categories there don't predict anything. What determines votes are vague and unmeasurable qualities like ideology or issue prioritisation or beliefs or electability. Finally, in primaries, people make their choices often after the polls are over, based on media coverage or advertising right at the last second. It's a polling nightmare. So I wouldn't be drawing any conclusions from what happened to the polls in those states. Just don't take the next primary polls too seriously. They're often wrong.
Yeah, it's a good tip. I'll try and remember to take it. Our guest this week is Hasan Piker. He is one of the most well-known live streamers and podcasters in America right now, and he is certainly also one of the most controversial. A controversy that really began 6 years ago when he was a member of the left-wing Young Turks political commentary team. It was on his own fledgling live stream program that he said this.
America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
Now, obviously, that was just a very, very short clip without its proper context, but it is the clip that most people saw and keep seeing. At the time, it did draw widespread condemnation as well, including from Piker's own uncle. He's another left-wing streamer. This is Young Turks co-founder Cenk Uygur.
You said America deserved 9/11. Did you mean that?
No. Obviously not, especially considering the fact that while that is a very viral quote that is going around currently, if those people were at least even remotely charitable or cared about the actual truth of what I was talking about, they would understand that within context, I was simply referencing the fact that all of the foreign policy decisions and our arming of insurgent groups in the region and our efforts in destabilizing the Middle East have a direct consequence, a boomerang effect rather, if you will, in causing 9/11.
And Piker did go on to apologise to those who were offended by the initial 9/11 comment. But this all became a major issue again this year in that Michigan Senate Democratic primary. Piker, in the last 5 or 6 years, has become a significant political influencer. He often has prominent left-wing guests on his show, including Bernie Sanders and AOC. And in recent weeks, he has hosted and campaigned for Abdul El Sayed.
Despite backlash, progressive Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El Sayed appearing with controversial streamer Hasan Piker at a Michigan State rally where he refused to reject his past comments.
Abdul, are there any views that Hasan holds that you disavow while you're with him right now?
I'm not here to disavow people's views. I'm here to have a conversation about how to get money out of politics, put money back in pockets, and pass Medicare for all.
Staying on message, but El Sayed also defended talking on Piker's program, arguing you do not have to endorse somebody's every utterance just to go on their show. And on that we would concur. El Sayed maintains he does not share Piker's socialism. As you said, he says he is a capitalist, but that hasn't stopped some of the other inflammatory things that Hasan Piker has said over the years being used now to attack El Sayed.
Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist bloods, dude.
The people who listen to Hasan are engaging in good faith. They want a way forward into our politics.
So he has said a lot of inflammatory things, all very good fodder for Republican attack ads now. This is how Hasan Piker defended those kinds of remarks to the ABC's Sarah Ferguson last year.
And it's, of course, hyperbolic, and it's not meant to be sincere. This is not sincere advocacy. It's not a real policy that I would ever advocate for. And that's precisely the reason why when Republicans were desperately looking for any sort of incisive language that they could present, they went back to a very obvious instance of LARPing, an insincere statement that is obviously hyperbolic from, I believe, 2018.
Hyperbole perhaps, but Piker has made an entire series of fairly inflammatory statements about Israel. His rhetoric can be at times very aggressive, sometimes so much that we literally can't play the clips on this show. And he's also been complimentary of China's father of communism, Mao Zedong.
I got stopped by a cop who thought I was like making fun of Mao Zedong, which I never would and never will. Mao Zedong is one of the great leaders of this world, okay? A man who changed the entire universe, the entire planet, okay? For real, yes. I mean, there was a lot of fucking excesses, let's be real, but the People's Republic of China would not exist without Mao Zedong.
Yeah, there have been some excesses, but Piker also influences a lot of people, averaging about 36,000 viewers at a time. Hey, that doesn't sound like much. But when you're live streaming for 8 hours straight, 7 days a week, it adds up to 14 million people watching his live streams every month. He has 3 million followers, with almost 2 million followers on all of the major social networks. And he micro-targets young men in particular. 70% of adults under 30 who consume news through influencers like Piker say they're better than traditional media at explaining news events. So this guy is really going to matter in the midterms. So why don't we see what he thinks about them, John?
Well, we could just ignore the principles of free speech, I suppose. We do have a few minutes up our sleeves, so why not? Here is Hasan Piker.
Hasan, you recently said that progressives might have to moderate in the general election, at least with the way they communicate. Now, does that mean you don't mind if, say, Abdul El Sayed or AOC threw you under the bus, if that's what it takes to win?
I don't think there is a necessity for them to do this because I think tackling the form is probably the more appropriate way to deal with questions like that, and just simply ask, why are we doing guilt by association? Most Americans hate cancel culture, so that's definitely a successful strategy, which Abdul has deployed as well, and so has Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, as a matter of fact. Because at the end of the day, no matter how hard the Republicans try to make me the relevant figure, the central figure, as they've actually openly revealed in an Axios report that just came out, that this is their midterm strategy to talk about democratic socialism, to talk about myself, and to talk about some of these other candidates and present them as these dyed-in-the-wool radicals. I think what matters most to people is solving the affordability crisis. And I think Abdul and AOC are clever enough communicators to be able to bring the issues at the forefront of their campaigns, even if this is the line of questioning. The other side of this, of course, is that it shows weakness. In the post-Trump universe that we live in, a lot of people actually don't respect apologies for the most part. Everyone thinks that they respect apologies. They see it as humility, but the reality is most people don't see it as humility, unfortunately. We live in a very contentious media environment, and the reality of the matter is when you apologize for an affiliation, whether it's in the past or even in the future, most people end up doubling down on that, and they use that as ownership and will even turn around and yell at you for your hypocrisy, for ever having courted the interests of someone like myself at all. I'll give you one example from my own personal experience. A lot of people use the 9/11 comments that I made in 2019 as a way to declare myself to be a radical, an America-hating radical. And it's really interesting because I misspoke on that. And I actually very clearly was describing the concept of blowback in the longer context of it all. And I also apologized for it back in 2019. And yet people still use that soundbite over and over again now in 2026. So I don't think people care necessarily about apologies. And I think Democrats should probably stop apologizing for things that Republicans want them to apologize for. So my perspective on it is only apologize if you've actually done something wrong and you want to make sure that your base understands that you've done something wrong, and don't ever expect people to take your apology in grace. In most circumstances, your opposition's framing on the issue is what they're trying to dial home.
Hasan, you suddenly find yourself at the centre of this midterm election campaign. Some of your most controversial comments are being taken and used in attack ads against the left-wing and socialist candidates that you have endorsed. I wonder, can you tell us, what is it like to be at the centre of that political storm, particularly given that we know all too well political violence is a reality in America?
I mean, it certainly worries me. It's not a secret that America can be a very violent nation at times. A lot of people have guns here, and also they use them all the time. However, I mean, that is, I think, the ultimate goal of the Republican Party. It's the ultimate goal of Fox News, and it might even be the ultimate goal of some establishment Democrats who also foresee this movement that I'm a part of as a significant threat to the profits of corporations or their corporate benefactors in general. Having said that, you know, you have to be bold, you have to be brave, and you have to always say the truth. That's my policy. So I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing regardless. But no, it doesn't feel great to be in the crosshairs all the time. It doesn't feel great to be misunderstood. And now we live in an environment where clips out of context can be the news desk editor for months on end, as this line of attack actually started all the way back in April. And I really thought that it would die down by now, but it's only gotten worse in the process, especially after some of these candidates, like Abdul, won their primaries.
Hasan, you're obviously an entertainer, not a politician. And when you're in live stream mode, you speak like an entertainer, quite a provocative one at times. But you also have serious political opinions and you seem to want to be influential in politics. So does that mean going forward you've got to be more careful when you're live streaming, or do you think that doesn't matter?
I do think it matters. Absolutely. And I am as careful as one can possibly be. But I think a lot of people don't understand the format that I exist in, the medium that I occupy. Twitch streaming is very different than regular live broadcasting. I speak for 8 hours uninterrupted on end. And it's actually a very hostile and sometimes it's actually a very contentious and sometimes very hostile environment because there's always back and forth communication taking place. One example I use is the latest smears that I have been receiving from the Republican Party, including some of its spokespeople like Scott Jennings, who works for Salem Media and now CNN as well. He's in the running for Trump's new press secretary, as a matter of fact. He recently smeared me, he slandered me by using a clip compilation that the Republican Party had put out. And in the clip compilation, it's very clear that I'm actually sarcastically reading a comment from someone in my community that's actually making a very hostile and very heinous accusation, saying we must go back to the time of lynchings. And the Republican Party actually clipped it to make it seem like I'm saying that, as though I'm in favor of going back to a time where lynchings were taking place against black people. Now, they know that this is a heinous smear. They understand that, but they use it nonetheless. I actually am pursuing legal options right now, as a matter of fact. But the reason why I brought that up is because things like that happen all the time, especially when I have spoken on hotly debated, very contentious issues for more than 22,000 hours at this point. 22,000 hours of sometimes hostile conversations about very incendiary topics that people have a close and personal association to. So it's an inevitability that there are going to be moments, passionate moments, moments where I'm embellishing, moments where I'm actually using metaphors that people will take as though these are sincere moments of advocacy and rob it of its context and its nuance. It's actually really funny because my fans used to make out-of-context clip compilations in a joking manner, and I never thought that years later, those out-of-context clip compilations would turn into attack ads for candidates and an entire political movement. So having said all of that, of course, I have to be as careful as I possibly can, but I'm not a robot. And the medium that I occupy, unfortunately, allows for this sort of thing to happen quite frequently.
Hasan, because of the controversies around you and the way that you're now featuring in so much of the conservative attacks on progressive candidates, has your usefulness politically largely passed? Are the likes of Abdul El-Sayed or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders no longer taking your calls?
Well, I can't speak for Abdul El-Sayed, but no, I don't. The calls have not stopped. I can tell you that. It's actually very interesting because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't want any additional negative association or any negative attention on their campaigns. But the reality of the matter is I do occupy a space where there are a lot of disillusioned young male voters, a lot of voters that weren't necessarily interested in the political process. That's the role that I serve at the end of the day, bringing under 45-year-old young men back into the fray, back into political activism. And that's precisely the reason why a lot of these politicians, of course, want this audience and want to speak to this audience and want this audience of door knockers and motivated people to go out and phone bank for them and even fundraise for them as well. Because remember, these campaigns and these candidacies that I work with, they're left populist candidates. Many of them are socialists. They're a part of a broader movement of Democratic Socialists of America in this country. And for them, they have no other option. There's not going to be outside expenditures in their races. There's not going to be any corporate super PACs spending money on their behalf because their positions are antagonistic to these corporations. So they recognize very well that this is the most important avenue that they can occupy, not only the attention economy, but also the loyal door knockers and canvassers that they get as a consequence of appearing on the show or even campaigning alongside myself.
Finally, while Trump's warning America against the dangers of communism, it turns out communism might have already won.
Communism is taking over America.
Stone cold communism.
The monster is coming to devour the entire party.
I am proud to announce city-run grocery stores.
Government grocery stores.
Guaranteed health insurance for every single American.
Government health care.
I said I'd like you to give 10% of Intel to the United States of America.
Government chip companies? Wait, no, I didn't mean him.
The Department of War took a $400 million stake in MP Materials.
Wait, not this. I was talking about...
There's been $17 billion on U.S. Steel. We have a golden share, which I control.
Okay, that's a little communist, but it's not like this is his new way of doing industrial policy.
And is this the new way of doing industrial policy?
Yeah, sure it is.
Damn it! Well, anyway...
With communism, everything turns to shit.
Exceptions apply.
And that's your lot for this week's Planet America. Good to be back. You'll find the full interview with Hasan Piker on ABC iView and YouTube, and we'll be back at the same time next week.
And the Pep Podcast is also back this week. We're talking a whole lot more about the primaries and the worst person you may not have heard of. You'll find it all in the very finest pod places. See you there.
Bye-bye.